What time is it? Verb time? No, I'm kidding. Alright, but today's lesson is a simple verb tenses review. Now, it's a review because you've seen this plenty of times. In fact, you've actually seen not just the simple tenses, but you've even seen the progressive tenses. But it's always a good thing to review. Now, today's focus, we're going to go over them all and also tell you when exactly do we use the simple past, when do we use simple present, and when do we use simple future. And I think you might know the rules by now, but it's a little bit confusing when you're doing your writing or even your speaking. When do you actually use these tenses correctly? So let's talk about that. First, what is the simple past tense? The simple past tense, this is very important for later when we do the perfect tenses. The simple past tense, it defines, it tells you if the verb is going to be a regular verb or if the verb is going to be an irregular verb. Okay, so you need to know the simple past tense to understand regular or irregular. A regular verb ends in ed, an irregular verb does not. How do you know if it's regular or irregular? If you know the word play, how does that become a past tense verb? Play, played. If it ends in ed, you know it's regular. Alright, what about the word write? Write, righted. That doesn't sound right. Different rights. So that write is wrote. It's an irregular verb. So if you know the simple past tense, right, then you can tell me if the verb is going to be regular or irregular. And this becomes important when you learn your next, the next tense that we teach you, which is our perfect tenses. But right now, just know regular verbs are ed, irregular verbs are not ed. You have to memorize those. There aren't any rules for those. When do we use simple past tense? We're talking about a completed action or when you're telling a story. Because a completed action means that something started in the past and it finished in the past. So those are your regular started and finished. So if it's done, it's a simple past tense. If the action is going into the present, we're not using the simple past, we're actually going to be using the progressive tense, which is different. So when we're talking about done stories, started, finished, done, simple past. Moving on into the present. The present tense, for the simple tenses, you need to remember the subject-verb agreement rule. The subject-verb agreement rule, we've learned it before, but very simply, if you have a singular noun, you need to have a singular verb. A singular verb has an S at the end. A plural noun needs to have a plural verb. A plural verb does not have an S at the end. It sounds weird because when I think of a singular, I think no S, but we're talking nouns here. Verbs, it's kind of crazy that it's the opposite. So if you have a singular verb, think of an S. If you have a plural verb, no S. Just remember that for our subject-verb agreement. When we talk about the simple present, when do we use it? For habits, facts, opinions, or statements. What are habits? Habits are things that we do all the time, things that we do regularly. Eat, right? So when you eat food, that is something that you do on a regular basis. I hope you eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I don't. I usually lunch and a snack, but most people eat regularly. Also, facts. Facts are things that are true, right? And facts and statements, they kind of go together as well, but facts are things that are true. The sky is blue. These are things that technically the sky has no color, but when you're talking about a statement or a fact, people believe these things to be true. An opinion. Opinions are just ideas. Maybe it's true, maybe it's not, but it's just what do you think or what does someone think, okay? So when we're using the simple present tense, just remember subject-verb agreement and using it in this way. We are not talking about the present tense, simple present tense, what we're doing right now. If you are doing something, we're using the present progressive tense, and we'll review that in a later lesson. Going into the future, all future tenses share this pattern at the beginning. The difference is when you have the simple future, it ends this way. The future progressive ends in a different way, but the beginning of it is always the same. You either have will plus something or be going to plus something. This be verb, subject-verb agreement. So when you use simple future, will plus the verb infinitive. What is the infinitive? The infinitive is usually to plus the verb. But in the dictionary, we say the bare infinitive, which is don't use the to. So in the dictionary, you might see to play, which is just infinitive. But if you see play without the to, that's the bare infinitive. So when we use the future, it's will play. It's not will to play. It's is, am, are going to play, not is, am, are going, well, to play, right? You're not going to add the second to because it's already there in the future, okay? So when do we use the future tense? It's the opposite of the simple past tense. Simple future, it hasn't happened yet. Simple past, it's done. Simple past started and finished in the past. Simple future will begin and end in the future. It will start and finish later, okay? Let's look at some examples that we have. Using the word play, right? We're going to go through the same sentence in the past, present, and future simple tenses. So using my name, right? Denny played soccer with his friends. Okay? So ed, regular verb, played soccer with his friends. It was fun. Was is the past tense of the be verb. Okay? So all of these are going to be connected. If your sentence here is simple past, your second sentence, if they go together, should also be simple past. Denny played soccer with his friends. It was fun. How do we use that in the present tense? Denny plays soccer with his friends. It is fun. What am I talking about here? Denny plays soccer with his friends. This is a habit. This is something that I do often. Well, I play baseball often. But if you want to use this, Denny is a singular noun. It's one person. It's just me. So when I use my verb, subject-verb agreement, I need to have an S. So Denny plays soccer with his friends. It is fun because is the, well, one of the forms for the present tense of the be verb because you have is, am, or are that you could use. But because Denny is one, Denny is, or it is fun, right? Playing soccer is fun. The future tense. Denny will play soccer with his friends. Am I doing it now? Did I do it before? No, I'm going to start playing sometime later. So, in this case, I'm saying I will play with my friends. It is going to be fun. That's a little tricky because I could say it will be fun, and that's fine, but here there's two be verbs. This is goes with this one. So, it is, because I'm using subject-verb agreement, going to, what's my verb infinitive? Be, right? So it is going to be is my infinitive that I'm using in this sentence, because was is the past tense of be, is one of the present tenses of be, and this is just your bare infinitive of the be verb. So that is all your simple tenses. It's a review with a little bit extra. If it's still confusing, well, we have a review section coming up. So, let's review. Simple verb tenses review. What is important about the simple past tense? The simple past tense defines whether a verb is regular or irregular. How do regular and irregular verbs end in the simple past tense? Regular verbs end in ed, but you have to memorize irregular verbs in the simple past tense. When do we use the simple past tense? We use it to talk about an action that started and finished in the past. It is a storytelling tense. What do you need to remember when using the simple present tense? You need to remember subject-verb agreement. When do we use the simple present tense? We use it to talk about habits, facts, opinions, and statements. When do we not use the simple present tense? It is not used to talk about what is happening now. What are the two patterns that begin all future tenses? The two patterns that begin all future tenses are either will plus something or be going to plus something. What comes after the two patterns in the simple future tense? You use the verb in the bare infinitive after the two patterns for the simple future tense. When do we use the simple future tense? We use it to talk about something that hasn't happened yet. It will begin and end in the future.